Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Slok 28. Kamanim darshayam shreshtam prekshaniyam brajo kasham Ridan iva hasan mugda bala sima valokanaha. When the Lord displayed his activities just suitable for childhood, he was visible only to the brethren of Vrindavan. Sometimes he would cry and sometimes laugh, just like a child, and while doing so, he would appear like a lion cub. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. If everyone wants to enjoy the childhood passion of the Lord, then he has to follow in the footsteps of the residents of Braja like Nanda, Upananda and other parental inhabitants. A child may insist on having something and cry like anything to get it, disturbing the whole neighborhood, and then immediately after achieving the desired thing he laughs. Such crying and laughing is enjoyable to the parents and elderly members of the family. So the Lord will simultaneously cry and laugh in this way and merge his devotee parents in the honor of transcendental pleasure. These incidents are enjoyable only by the residents of Braja like Nand Maharaj and the impersonalist worshippers of Brahman or Paramatma, and not by the impersonalist worshippers of Brahman or Paramatma. Sometimes, when attacked in the forest by demons, Krishna would appear struck with wonder, but he looked on them like the cub of a lion and killed them. His childhood companions would also be struck with wonder, and when they came back home, they would narrate the story to their parents, and everyone would appreciate the qualities of their Krishna. Child Krishna did not belong only to his parents, Nanda and Yasoda. He was the son of all the elderly inhabitants of Vrindavan and the friend of all contemporary boys and girls. Everyone loved Krishna. He was the life and soul of everyone, including the animals, the cows and the calves. Kamanim darshayam shreshtam prekshaniyam brajo kasham Ridan iva hasan mugda bala simava lokanaha. This is going to be a little short class today. We have to go early in the morning. So in this chapter is called, what is this chapter called? Who knows? Huh? Remembrance of Lord Sri Krishna. That should be everybody's business, isn't it? Remembrance of Lord Sri Krishna. And we saw earlier in the chapter that Vidura had asked a great devotee, Uddhava, about the pastimes of the Lord. And Uddhava, in this chapter, is recalling the different transcendental activities of the Lord. And Uddhava was, from his very childhood, he was absorbed in what? Absorbed in serving the Supreme Lord. As it is explained in the earlier verses of this chapter, even when he was a small child and he would be invited for breakfast, he would not bother about coming and eating. He would just be, even in his childhood, he was absorbed in playing with dolls of the Supreme Lord. It is said that if from the childhood a child is educated in spiritual life, then he grows up with the proper understanding. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj has said, Kamana Achrat Pragya Dharmam Bhagavatamya, that from the age of 5, one should begin to cultivate spiritual life. Prabhupada used to tell us how when he was a small child, he was also trained by his parents to worship their lordships Radha and Krishna. And how even when Prabhupada was a small child, he used to organize a very nice, what's that festival called? Rath Yatra festival. And the Rath Yatra festival that Prabhupada was organizing had become so popular that even Prabhupada's father's friends would say, "You organized this nice festival and you didn't call us." And then Prabhupada's father would say, "But this festival was organized by my son. It wasn't organized by me." So Uddhava here in this chapter is recalling all the wonderful pastimes that the Supreme Lord had performed in Gokul and in Vrindavan. And we devotees should also get into the habit of remembering these different pastimes of the Lord. In the purport in this section, Prabhupada explains that when you remember these pastimes of the Lord is actually present over there. Why? Because the Lord is absolute. Just like we say that when you chant the holy names, the holy name is not different from the Lord, isn't it? So similarly, when you remember the pastimes of the Lord, then the Lord is actually personally present over there, because the Lord is absolute. So the safest path is to absorb oneself in remembering the pastimes of the Lord. Just like Uddhava over here is remembering the different pastimes performed by the Lord, we should also similarly absorb ourselves in remembering these different pastimes of the Lord. In the Nectar of Devotion, you read about various rules and regulations given by Rupa Goswami as to how we should progress on the devotional path. But the conclusion is, as Rupa Goswami says, the purpose of all these rules and regulations is to bring us to the point that you always remember Krishna and you never forget Krishna. This is mentioned again and again. Get to the point we always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. This is very important for pursuing spiritual life. Prabhupada said, you can conquer the whole world, but if you haven't conquered your mind, you haven't achieved anything. And remembering the pastimes of Krishna is a medium through which you can conquer the mind. To conquer the mind is necessary if you want to make spiritual advancement. In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that one should make friends with the mind and not let the mind be your enemy. When is the mind considered to be your friend? The mind is considered to be your friend when the mind is acting according to the directions of the Lord. And when is the mind considered to be your enemy? When the mind is acting independent of the Lord. And Krishna explains in the 6th chapter that for one who has controlled the mind, the super soul is already reached. And to such a man, happiness and distress, victory, defeat, honor, dishonor, heat and cold are all the same. In other words, if you have controlled the mind, then a devotee will be peaceful in any situation. And if you haven't controlled the mind, then it doesn't matter how much you achieve, you will never be peaceful. In the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam, you read the story of Lord Vamandev and Bali Maharaj. The Lord had incarnated as Lord Vamandev, and he appeared in the sacrificial arena of Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj was very attracted by the beauty of this Brahmana. And he offered him any benediction. He asked him, what could he offer him as a gift? So, Vamandev, he was the Supreme Lord. He asked him for something very meager. He said, just give me enough land where I can keep 3 footsteps. Now, that was something so insignificant, isn't it? So, Bali Maharaj said, ask me for something more. This is nothing. You don't go to a big man and ask him for something so insignificant, ask him for a few grains of rice. But then Vamandev said, if one who has not controlled his mind and senses, even if you give him everything, he will not be satisfied. And one who has controlled his mind, and through the mind he can control the senses, he'll be satisfied in any condition. Take, for example, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. At one time, they were living in a very opulent condition. Rupa Goswami, when he resigned from his government service, he had so much wealth that a whole boat was full of gold coins. But when they came to Vrindavan, how did they live? They lived the life of a mendicant. They were totally satisfied. Then Raghunath Das Goswami, he was also the son of a millionaire. He came to Vrindavan, he lived the life of a pauper. He was totally satisfied. Why? They had a holy name. Prabhupada gave us an example. He said, during India's freedom movement, there was a very big lawyer who used to give Mahatma Gandhi a lot of money. So once Mahatma Gandhi told him, now you give me your money, now I want you. You give your life, come and work with me, take part in the independent movement. But this man was so attached to his comfort that when he was asked to come and surrender and be with Gandhi, he was very uncomfortable, unhappy. And in 1 month he died. He was sick. So Prabhupada gave us this example to show the one who has controlled his mind and senses, and he gave the example of Raghunath Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatana. They had all the opulences, but still, when they renounced all that, they had absolutely no problem in adjusting to the life of a mendicant. Whereas one who doesn't control his mind and senses, he's not happy when he doesn't get his facilities. So, in this chapter we see that Uddhava is recalling the different pastimes of the Lord, the different pastimes exhibited by the Lord, and we devotees should also develop the habit of remembering the different pastimes of the Lord. As Kṛṣṇa says in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, if you do 4 things, you come back to me. What are the 4 things? Man mana bhava, mad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskaro. Mame vachre satyam te pratijane priyoshime. You think of me, become my devotee, offer your homage unto me, bow down to me. And if you do these 4 things, then what will happen? You'll come to me without any doubt, without fail. So this principle of remembering the different pastimes of the Lord, this business of remembering the instructions of the Lord is mentioned again and again. And just like Uddhava is recalling the different pastimes of the Lord, we should also develop the habit of recalling the different pastimes of the Lord. In the first canto of the Bhagavatam, you read that after the Lord had departed from the planet and Arjuna realized that the Lord had departed, Arjuna became very, very sad. And Arjuna began recalling those pastimes which, from a material angle, were inconceivable, but by the mercy of the Lord became conceivable. And then Arjuna started recalling Krishna's instructions from the Bhagavad Gita. And when he started recalling Krishna's instructions from the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna felt as if Krishna was right there, present with him, just by meditating on Krishna's instructions in the Gita. Because, as Prabhupada says, there are many verses in this chapter, the Prabhupada makes a point that remembering of the passion of the Lord is absolute. Because when you remember the passion of the Lord, then the Krishna is actually present. That's the feeling a devotee has. So Arjuna, when he started recalling the different instructions of the Lord, then he felt as if Krishna was right there. And the moroseness and the sadness that he had disappeared. And he was once again enlivened. So Prabhupada explains that this is what every devotee in the Krishna conscious movement should do. Meditate on Krishna's pastimes of the Bhagavad Gita. How many of you meditate on Krishna's pastimes of the Bhagavad Gita every day? 2, 3, 4, 5. So, we should all try to do that. Huh? So, by meditating and remembering these pastimes, the mind will naturally get purified. Just like Prabhupada gives example, if a glass is full with water, then there's no opportunity to add anything more. So similarly, if the mind is absorbed in these different pastimes, then there won't be any room for any other mundane activity. Now, if you read Krishna's childhood pastimes, like this verse is talking about Krishna's childhood pastimes, you see that Krishna killed many powerful demons, isn't it? Very powerful demons. Garga Muni, the astrologer, he knew that Krishna, who Krishna's real identity was. But his foster parents, Nand Maharaj and Yasoda Mata, they were so enamored by the love towards their son that they could never really comprehend Krishna's childhood pastimes. And they could never really understand that here was Krishna, none else but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we see that Krishna killed many demons, isn't it? Which was the first demon that Krishna killed? Now, Thakur Bhakti Vinod has given us a very nice explanation of Krishna killing the different demons. So some of you may say, what's the advantage of our reading these pastimes of Krishna killing the demons? What is the advantage? One advantage is, you know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord can perform inconceivable activities from day one. If you want to become healthy, you have to go to a gymnasium to practice. If you want to be a weightlifter, you have to go to a health club to practice weightlifting. But Krishna didn't have to do anything. Okay, so that's one advantage. You know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and when he performs his inconceivable, and he is capable of performing any inconceivable activity. What's the other advantage of hearing these pastimes of Krishna killing the demons? You eliminate your anarthas. Thakur Bhakti Vinod has very nicely analyzed and explained that by remembering these different pastimes of the Lord, devotees destroy their sinful tendencies. We have sinful tendencies. Just because we have come to spiritual life, or just because I've got initiated, doesn't mean that your sinful tendencies have disappeared instantly. So when you hear these different pastimes and meditate on these different pastimes, then the sinful tendencies that are there in us, they get destroyed. That is why hearing and remembering is important. Remembering is only possible if hearing is also there. If hearing is not there, then how will you remember? Therefore, when Prahlad Maharaj explains the ninefold process of devotional service, he explains Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. He did not say Vishnu Smaranam, Shravanam, Kirtanam. He didn't say, first you remember, then you hear and chant. He said, hear, chant, and then you can remember. So Thakur Bhaktivinoda explains that when you hear, now hearing is the same as reading. Somebody may say, okay, I'll just hear, I will not read. No, hearing is the same as reading. You read, so you're hearing through the eyes. When you hear, you hear from the ears. So both are important, hearing through the eyes and hearing through the ears. So when you hear these different pastimes, then you eliminate the different anarthas. For example, the pastime of Krishna killing the powerful demon Putana. Putana, as you know, had disguised herself as a very beautiful, attractive lady. She was sent by Kamsa for the purpose of poisoning the child. Kamsa had already heard that the Lord has already appeared. Kamsa was, the Lord, the person who's going to kill you has already appeared. So what did Kamsa do? Cruel as he was, he ordered that all the children born in the last 10, 12 days should be killed. Not only that, he even instructed that all the Brahmanas' houses should be burnt. All the sacrifices should be stopped. Cows should be killed. Why? The cow gives milk, isn't it? The milk, then you make butter. The butter then goes for sacrifice. And he said, by sacrifice, Vishnu becomes stronger. So they operated everything demonic. And when you hear this pastime, how Krishna killed the powerful demon Putana, so by hearing this takes away the anartha of those who think that you can have bhakti and sense enjoyment at the same time. There's some so-called gurus who teach that you can have sense enjoyment and bhakti at the same time. But Krishna doesn't say that, isn't it? Does Krishna say that? But there's some so-called preachers who say you can have your quota of sense enjoyment and still you can go back to Godhead. You can do both bhakti and sense enjoyment. So by hearing the story of Putana, then this tendency that is there, that I can have sense enjoyment and go back to God and perform bhakti, that anartha gets destroyed. This is Thakur Bhaktivinoda's explanation. Not only do we have that understanding, there are many so-called gurus who also preach this philosophy of how you can have sense gratification and at the same time you can go back to Godhead. Krishna has made it very clear that performing devotional service means rejecting what is unfavorable for spiritual advancement. Krishna, when he was a small child, few months old, there was a very powerful cart. What is it called? Cart called? Shaktasura. Huh? So Krishna just touched it. Just like a small child, he sometimes lifts his leg. And what happened? That cart came tumbling down, isn't it? The cart came tumbling down. So everybody in the house was surprised. How did this happen? How did this car come tumbling down? And the other cowherd boy said, this happened because your son kicked the car. Did Mother Yasoda believe it? She said, no. How can my young child have so much strength in his legs? But so if you hear this pastime, how Krishna killed the demon, there was a ghost actually in the cart. How Krishna killed the demon. Now, by hearing this, what happens? You take away the bad habits of laziness and pride. Many times we're very proud of our position. We are lazy on the path of devotional service. Actually, in the path of devotional service, one should never be lazy. Why? Because time represents Krishna. Krishna says, time I am. And the devotee's desire is the time should be used always in what? In serving the Supreme Lord. So, by hearing this pastime, you take away the tendency of pride, laziness, etc. Then there was another demon Krishna killed right after that. What was that? Trinavarta. Mother Yasoda was boiling the milk and the baby was sitting right there. And Trinavarta appeared as a whirlwind. There was so much storm released. So Mother Yasoda, for a fraction of a second, she was like blinded. And in the meantime, Trinavarta lifted the baby. Of course, Krishna is very smart. He let Trinavarta lift the baby. But when they went high, then Krishna expanded himself. And he became so heavy that the demon just could not hold the baby. And then, ultimately what happened? Trinavarta died. So if you hear the story of Trinavarta, Krishna killing the Trinavarta demon, what do you destroy by that? By hearing this pastime, you destroy the tendency of fault finding, just arguing. We have the tendency to fault find, false learning, being proud of your academic knowledge, thinking I'm such a great pandit, etc. And so these tendencies that we have, different types of anarthas, these false pride, this can be destroyed by regularly hearing these pastimes, especially this pastime of Krishna killing the Trinavarta. Then there was another pastime of Krishna pulling down the 2 Yamarjan trees. Actually, the great sages, even if they curse you, it's a blessing. So the sons of Kuvera were intoxicated, and when the great sage Narada Muni was passing by, they were so intoxicated that they didn't even have the courtesy to cover their body, even though the ladies who were with them had the decency. So Narada Muni cursed them. What did he curse them to be? Trees. But not in Delhi or Bombay. They became trees in the courtyard of Narmada. I'm sure none of you would mind that curse, अगर आपको श्राप दिया जाए नर्मराज के आंगन में पेड़ बनने के लिए, would anybody mind it? No. So they became the trees, and they were given the curse to become trees, to stand as trees for 100 years, 100 celestial years. But then, along with that, they were also given the benediction that they would be delivered by the Supreme Lord. They would be able to see the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord fulfills the promise of His devotee. Just like when the Lord appeared as Nrsingadev. He appeared as Nrsingadev, keeping all the promises given by Brahma intact. In fact, Prabhupada said in one of his lectures on Lord Nrsingadev's appearance there, he said that after Krishna killed, after Nrsingadev killed Hiranyakashipu, Nrsingadev told Brahma, in future, don't give these type of benedictions. It makes my job very hard. Because Brahma gave so many assurances to Hiranyakashipu that the Lord had to conceive of a plan how to appear as Nrsingadev, half man, half lion, at dusk, and use his nail to kill Hiranyakashipu. So Narada Muni cursed these two sons of Kuvera and gave them along with that a benediction. So Krishna remembered the benediction that was given by his devotee, Narada Muni. So he pulled down the two huge trees, isn't it? He was a small child crawling. The mortar was stuck between the two trees. Now can a small child who's crawling, not even walking, can a small child pull down two huge trees? कोई छोटा बड़ा बच्चा दो बड़े वृक्षों को गिरा सकता है? But Krishna pulled down the huge trees. And out of those two trees came Nalakura and Manugriva. And they were very happy. The two thanked the Lord. They thanked the Lord. They thanked their Guru Narada Muni for giving them this opportunity where they could see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they realized that the curse given by Narada Muni was actually a blessing, because now they had the privilege to see the Supreme Lord. And then they offered a very wonderful prayer. They said, henceforth means from now onwards. We may have made many mistakes, but from now onwards our desire is that our eyes may constantly see the form of the Lord. Our ears may constantly hear the glories of the Lord. Our tongue may constantly glorify the Supreme Lord. Our head may constantly bow down before the Supreme Lord. Our legs may constantly walk to the places of worship of the Lord. So this is the standard that every devotee should have. What they said is henceforth. That means we may have made some mistakes in the past. We were puffed up, arrogant. They were the sons of a big man, Kuvera. So, children of big people get intoxicated, become falsely proud. Just like even in today's society, if you see children of a big man, rich man, they're very proud, isn't it? They don't even surrender so easily to the Supreme Lord. So, just like these two sons of Kuvera, they offered this prayer saying, henceforth, how we may use our mind and senses always in service to the Lord. So that's the mentality that we devotees should have, that henceforth, may we, now in ignorance, we may have performed so many sinful activities, but now that we have come to Krishna consciousness, we may use our mind and senses constantly in service to the Lord. So, Mother Yasoda was in the kitchen when this pastime took place. When this pastime took place and the two trees fell down. So she came out running to see what happened. And when she saw the two trees on the ground, she said, how did this happen? And the other cowherd boys who were there said, your son caused these two trees to fall. And she said, how is this possible? How is it possible that my young son could have caused these two trees to fall? These two trees must have fallen due to the wind, due to the storm. How can a small child cause these two trees to fall? Now, by hearing this pastime of how Krishna delivered the two trees, you can destroy your anartha, pride, arrogance, especially if you're born in a rich family, you have this pride, but if you still have this proud mentality, This can be destroyed by hearing this pastime of Krishna delivering the Yamuna Arjuna trees. So the point is, by hearing these different pastimes of the Lord, we cleanse ourselves of the material misgivings. Brahma wanted to test this wonderful boy. What did Brahma do? He stole the different calves, cowherd boys, etc. How Krishna expanded himself as innumerable calves and cows and his cowherd boys, and then Krishna went back, and they went back to their respective homes. When the calves came back, the mothers had greater attachment than before. When the cowherd boys came back, the mothers had even more attachment than before. Now, for a whole year, nobody really knew what had transpired. And in the end, when Brahma saw these cowherd boys and cows, Brahma thought maybe those that he put to sleep have woken up. But then what did Brahma see? That they were still sleeping over there. And Brahma felt totally defeated by this. So we hear this different pastime, then what happens? And those who are attracted to the path of jnana and karmakanda, these tendencies to just speculate on the Supreme, and the tendency that through karmakanda you can make a spiritual advancement, this anartha will get destroyed. So by hearing these different childhood pastimes of the Lord, the different anarthas get destroyed. When you read about Krishna's childhood pastimes in the 10th canto, you also read how there was a lady selling apples. The lady was selling apples. She came to Krishna's house. At that time he had the system of barter, no cash. So tiny baby Krishna had grains in his hand. He went with the grains in his hand to offer them in exchange for the apples. The grains fell out. But still, the lady was so attracted to Krishna's beauty, she gave the apples. And when she looked back, what did she find? She found that a basket was full of golden apples. In the Chaitanya Mangal, you read another story. The Lord Chaitanya, after he took sannyas, he was racing ahead and he felt thirsty on the way. And a lady offered him buttermilk. He bought buttermilk from a lady who was selling buttermilk. And he said, money will be given by those who are coming behind me. And it was Nityananda and others. So the Lord Nityananda and the others came. And she said, Paisa, one sannyasi was going ahead. He drank all my buttermilk and he said, you are going to pay for it. Lord Nityananda said, even we don't have any money. So the lady said, okay, take this as a gift from me to that sannyasi. So her pot of buttermilk was all empty because Lord Chaitanya drank the entire pot. So normally the pot should be very easy to lift, isn't it? But when she went to lift it, it was so heavy that she could not even lift it. So out of curiosity then, she looked inside what was inside, and she saw the pot was full of gold, emeralds, and diamonds. And plus, the lady was blessed by Lord Chaitanya. She was dancing in ecstasy and chanting Hare Krishna. So she gave a little bit of milk, and what did she get in exchange? Gold. So some of you may say, boy, that's a good deal. We should all do that. I'll give 100 pots of buttermilk. Am I going to get? Of course, Lord Chaitanya blessed that lady, and she didn't get contaminated by this opulence, and she became a great devotee. But if we get so much opulence, we may get bewildered by the illusory energy. So Krishna doesn't give that to us so easily. Just like this Dhamma Brahman, He was a poor friend of the Lord. His wife would always tell him, go and meet your rich friend. If you have a rich friend, then you want to take advantage of that. She was poor. Of course, Sudama was content. A Brahmin is content in any situation. Even in distress, even in illness, even in poverty, a Brahmin doesn't complain. So Sudama was totally satisfied, but his wife wasn't so satisfied. So she would induce him, go and meet your rich friend. So he went to Dwarka. He was received so nicely by the Lord. They recalled their childhood pastimes, how to serve their spiritual master. They went on an impossible mission. And then, without really asking anything, Sudama departed to return to his home. And on the way back, he was just thinking, what am I going to tell my wife now? I didn't even ask the Lord for anything, isn't it? I just went and came back. I didn't ask him for anything. But the Lord is in everyone's heart. Sarvasya chaham hirdi sarivishto mataha smriti jnanam apahanam cha. So when he came back, what did he see? The same place which was a hut had become a palace. His wife was skinny, wearing toned saris, was dressed up in complete opulence. So he knew that this could only be possible by the mercy of... So someone may say, oh, I'll become a devotee of Krishna, provided I'm assured that my two-room apartment is going to become a palace like Sudama's. So why doesn't it happen to us? Well, Krishna knows that if he gave us too much opulence, we would forget him and get contaminated by the illusory energy. So Krishna keeps us on our toes. He doesn't give us too much of anything, so that we are fully dependent on him and we don't forget him. Otherwise, we could also fall in the same trap that the sons of Kūvera fell into. They were rich, they got allured into sense enjoyment, etc. So Krishna gives, so by listening to these different pastimes, there's so many wonderful pastimes you read. From Gokula they moved to Vrindavan. By remembering these pastimes, the mind gets purified. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, for the mind, what is the austerity of the mind? One austerity of the mind is to be satisfied in any condition. The nature of the material mind is to be never satisfied. But a spiritual mind, if one is spiritualist, then the mind is satisfied in any condition. Then another austerity of the mind is simplicity. Our philosophy is simple living and high thinking. And the material philosophy is high living and simple thinking. Live as high as you can and think like the cats and dogs. And our philosophy is simple living and high thinking. Therefore Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the austerities of the mind is simplicity. Then gravity. Gravity means to be always serious about the goal of life, not to waste a minute in idle talk, idle activity. Perfect yogi, Krishna says, is one who doesn't sleep too much, doesn't sleep too little, doesn't eat too much, doesn't eat too little. So we should always be serious about the goal of life. Then another austerity of the mind is self-control. Self-control means to control the mind and the senses. Then another austerity is purification of one's existence. And how do we get purified of our existence? By listening to these different pastimes of the Lord, by remembering these different pastimes of the Lord, by remembering the different instructions of the Lord, and of course, by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said is, Cheto Darpan Marjanam, results in cleansing of the heart. Then in the Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, called Attaining the Supreme, Krishna also gives us further information how you can positively engage the mind. Krishna says, think of me as one who is the oldest. We think of Krishna, but we think of Krishna as one who is the oldest. Adyam Purana Purusham Now Yavanam Cha. He is the oldest. There's no one older than him. But even though he's the oldest, he looks ever youthful. Then Krishna says, think of me as one who is the controller. Krishna is not only controller, he's the supreme controller. Therefore Brahmaji said, Ishvara Parama Krishna. He's not just Ishvara, he's the supreme Ishvara. There's no one higher than him. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ham Sarvasya Prabhavo. I am the source of everything material and spiritual. So Krishna says, think of me as one who is the controller. Then he says, think of me as one who is smaller than the smallest. Now he's smaller than the smallest. He can even enter into the atom. As the Paramatma, he even enters into the ant. Krishna is also in the heart of the ant. So Krishna is smaller than the smallest. Then Krishna says, think of me as one who is the maintainer of everything. Just like Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhaho mataha sarvam pravartate. I am the source of everything material and spiritual. Krishna also says, Maya dakshina prakriti. This prakriti is working under my direction. It's not independent of the Lord. So Krishna says, think of me as one who is the maintainer of everything. You ask the atheist, who is the cause of everything? He'll say material nature. Ask him, who created nature? Nature. He has no answer. But the devotee's answer is, that Krishna is the maintainer of everything. So when you see something nice, when you see something beautiful, the devotee automatically wants to offer it in service to the Lord. Then Krishna says, think of me as one who is beyond all material conception. Krishna is beyond material conception. That means you cannot understand the Lord by our material senses. You have to understand the Lord through the medium of seva. Sevo mukhehi jivado. Through the medium of service. And when you look at these different pastimes, how a small child pulled down 2 huge trees, you tell this to a materialist, he's not going to believe it, isn't it? He's going to say, how is it possible? But think of me as one who is beyond all material conception. Krishna is saying that himself. So Krishna cannot be measured by a tiny, mundane brain. Then he's inconceivable. He's inconceivable. He can pass an elephant to the eye of a needle also. Then Krishna says, think of me as one who's always a person. So Krishna is a person. But as Krishna says, Janma karma cha me devyam. His appearance and disappearance are both completely transcendental. It's not that the Supreme Lord is something impersonal or void. The impersonal aspect of God is subordinate to understanding the personal aspect of the God. Then Krishna says, think of me always as a person, more luminous than the sun and transcendental. He is there, but he's completely transcendental. So Krishna gives us further instructions as to how we can think of Krishna. So by remembering Krishna's pastimes as Uddhava is, by remembering Krishna's qualities as he describes in the Bhagavad Gita, as endeavoring to control the mind to the path given by Krishna, we can make the mind our friend. And when you can make the mind your friend, then spiritual life will become very easy. Spiritual life appears difficult as long as the mind is uncontrolled. In the Bhagavad Gita, the example is given of sitting on an unbridled horse. If you're sitting on a horse and you don't have control on the reins, then at any time you can be thrown off the saddle, isn't it? So similarly, if you come on the spiritual path and you don't try to control your mind and senses, at any time you can be thrown off the spiritual path. You'll go back to material life. Therefore, we should constantly try to remember the different pastimes of the Lord, and by remembering the different pastimes of the Lord, by remembering the different qualities of the Lord, by remembering the different forms of the Lord, you'll get purified and you'll be able to make spiritual advancement. So to summarize the verse here, and this chapter is called Remembrance of Lord Shri Krishna, we see how Uddhava, when he was asked by Vidura to describe the different pastimes of the Lord, how he was in total ecstasy, how he began to remember these different pastimes. And in this chapter, it is being described how Krishna performed these wonderful pastimes. Here we read about how he performed these wonderful pastimes in Vrindavan. And when Krishna was there, he was the talk of town. Even the Brijbasis, everybody was amazed how this small boy could perform such extraordinary feats. And they were thinking, maybe he has the blessings of the demigods, but no one knew that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we should absorb ourselves in thinking of Krishna. And one way to think of Krishna is if you also absorb yourself in Krishna Katha. This is nicely explained in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, where it is explained that devotee should endeavor to absorb himself in Krishna Katha. Sometimes people say, why does Krishna appear? He appears to kill demons. But Krishna can kill demons with material energy. So many demons are dying every minute. Krishna doesn't appear personally to kill them. People are getting heart attacks, cancer, AIDS, so many crashes. Krishna appears to perform transcendental pastimes which can be discussed and relished by his devotees through the medium of Krishna Katha. So if we engage in Krishna Katha, then remembrance of these different pastimes will become easy. And what is the opposite of Krishna Katha? If you engage in Prajalpa, then remembrance of Krishna will not be possible. You can't do Prajalpa and remember Krishna at the same time. You understand that? That point should be made very clear. If you want to remember Krishna, then you have to practice the art of Krishna Katha. Of course, chanting a holy name falls in this category. Then you can remember Krishna. You can't expect, I will not do Shravanam Kirtanam, and in the moment of death I'll do Vishnu Smaranam. It's not possible. If you don't study, you can't expect to pass the exam. So our process of study is practice the process of Krishna Katha. And by practicing Krishna Katha, then we'll be able to remember Krishna also. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,